Good morning and welcome. We're here on a raw day in November. Horse and I are both wearing our winter clothes and probably looking a little bit more raggedy as we will the rest of the winter, so you'll be seeing more of that, I'm sure. Because I try to keep riding all winter until the ground just gets suicidal. So far, it's above freezing, and we're still horseback. And I'll ride in the frozen ground too when it's not icy, but it takes a bit of care. Like a lot of you folks, I live in a climate that's a little challenging and I don't have an indoor, but I make it work the best I can. And if I have to shut down for a little while in the winter, well, the horse and I get a break and do something different. So what I'm gonna work on now is something I learned during winters back in the 1970s. When I was riding horses for other people and also didn't have full-fledged facilities, no indoor facility, because they were nowhere near as common in our area as they have become now. I'd take the winter and I'd travel around. Maybe I'd help somebody out riding horses. Maybe I'd just see the sights for 2 or 3 months. And as a young single guy, I'd go through the money I made the rest of the year sometimes not, and get back at it in the spring. I spent some time in California in about 1974, and the fellow that I was helping out there, and all of those guys were achieving a level of collection that we weren't seeing in our Western horses here in the East. But they didn't even call it collection. They'd just say, bridle your horse up, shorten your horse up. And in particular, if you were loping your horse along and he had gotten too long and too low and too extended in a casual, unintended way, they'd say, get him in there and put him on the short lope. And 40 some years later, I'm still putting horses on a short lope. You could put a lot fancier name to it, but I find it's useful, and I've got a couple of cones, or 4 cones out here, that kind of delineate our circle where we'll do this. That circle is about 40 feet if you just go to cone to cone to cone, and maybe just a little bit wider than that when you figure in the width of your horse's body width. And you can make your circle either on the inside or the outside of those cones. Now, I like to start this out on a trot. And what this will do is your horse has to engage a bit, even on the bigger circle. And if you pry their nose over and just bend them, either they're gonna probably run out or fall in. So you have to sort of steer the whole horse, steer them in a more collected frame, and you begin to get to where your horse is straighter but still soft. And then you can take this to the inside of those cones, which is relatively easy to do on a trot. And what you probably can't see too clearly on video is something that will help you in real life. And that is, you establish tracks. And if you're consistent, they should be equidistant from the cones, and they should be consistently on top of each other for your inside track and for your outside track. And I'll shift in and out. Now, the degree of difficulty goes up quite a bit when you move into a lope. So what I'm not doing is restraining my horse, but I'm keeping her up in the bridle, and if need be, if she got out here, which she's not doing, I'd pick up, steer her back. What I don't do if she goes out there is this. Take my hands way to the inside, not over, just to make the point. Because that is not precise enough for this exercise. So this is something you can do with a green horse, a very green horse, but it's not going to be as useful as it is on a horse that's already achieved some level of engagement. So I'll move her up into a lope. And see, there's a little bulge there. She fell in a little bit there. This is where you find the stiff spots and the bulges in your circle. And you got to keep your horse driving, keep him in the bridle or her in the bridle. You got to use your legs. And while your hands are involved, you shouldn't be all over the place with them. Because see what happens if you're sloppy, your horse gets sloppy. What we're talking about in this short lope exercise really is basically 6-inch steering. You're moving your horse's body maybe 6 inches. And while that seems like there, see she fell in, I had to correct that. While that may seem simple, that 6 inches, having that level of precision can be pretty challenging. And then you can up the degree of difficulty here and step this into a really short lope within that. And this is particularly good for this little horse who tends to drop her shoulders down and get heavy on the forehand. This gives her an athletic reason to do this with her shoulders up and in the bridle. And it lets me take her temperature, so to speak, to see if she's getting closer or further away from going around less long, low, and heavy on the front end. And you can do other things like steer through this, come out the far side, pick up your circle again, steer through this, come out the far side, pick up your circle again, and you'll see yourself overshooting or undershooting, and it kind of helps you as well as your horse to learn how to be more precise. If you really want to get fancy, and this could be a wreck, you come across and change a lead in it. Now, I really was very pleased with this little horse. That was high degree of difficulty. She didn't expect it. She got it pretty right. Ooh. So that, in a nutshell, is the short lope. It is demanding on your horse. If your horse doesn't steer, if your horse isn't good in the bridle, if you won't move off your legs, this is probably premature. It's simple, but if you think it's easy, try it. You'll find it isn't, but it's very informative, very helpful. And when I said about the steering and the move off your legs and the go forward, that hopefully, for those of you who followed this series, will have a familiar ring. The three basics, always. Go forward when asked, give to the bridle when asked, and move off your leg when asked. And if you have those three things on your horse, and you're starting to achieve some level of collection, then this exercise will be really helpful to you. If you don't have those things, this will tell you where the fault lies, and you can go back upstream and fix those basics. So, those are some thoughts on the short lope. Give it a try, and look forward to hearing from you as to how it went. Thanks.